What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome back to another episode of the NBA Talk Podcast for the week of February the 9th, 2017, all the way to February the 17th, 2017. I'm your host, Hani, and on this episode of the podcast, we're going to be discussing the first two official trades of the NBA trade deadline season. This is a big year. Big moves have been made for the trade deadline, and expect more to come, man. But we have two that just happened. We have one from the Toronto Raptors, who made a big splash, and that is one of our main stories. And then we also have another one between the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trailblazers. So we'll be getting into that and those trades and what I feel about both of them. We're also going to be talking about how the New York Knicks rescind Charles Oakley's ban from Madison Square Garden. So I'll break down the entire issue and how this became such a controversial thing, and then what happened and why we are where we are right now. It's a very confusing scenario. We're also going to be talking about the NBA Development League is now going to be rebranding to the NBA Gatorade League. So I'll give you my thoughts on what's this new change, why is it happening, what I think about it, and that stuff like that. We're also going to be talking about the trade rumors surrounding Brook Lopez and his future with the Brooklyn Nets. We're also going to be talking about how the Portland Trailblazers intend on trading Festus Ezeli. And finally, we're going to be talking about the tragic news of Kevin Love being out 6 weeks after going through arthroscopic surgery on his left knee. So, without any further ado, let's get started. So the Orlando Magic trade Serge Ibaka to the Toronto Raptors for Terrence Ross and a first-round pick. This is the biggest news of the week, man. The Toronto Raptors have finally addressed their long-standing need at power forward. The Raptors have acquired Orlando Magic big man Serge Ibaka in exchange for Terrence Ross and a 2017 first-round draft pick. Sources told the Vertical's Adrian Wojnarowski. The deal was made official soon after. The Raptors own their own first pick in this summer's draft, along with the Los Angeles Clippers first rounder. Orlando will get the lower of the two selections. The Raptors have lacked for a star caliber forward since Chris Bosh decamped for South Beach nearly 7 years ago. It's really been that long? Wow, I haven't really noticed, Chris, that you left. The Raptors have lacked I read that. By acquiring his bird rates, they'll give themselves a good chance of re-signing him when he hits unrestricted free agency this summer, something Toronto reportedly has every intention of doing. The 27-year-old is averaging 15 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 1.6 blocks a game while shooting a career best 39% from three-point range. Terrence Ross, 26 years old, has 2 years and $21 million left on his contract after this season and will help balance an ill-fitting Magic roster that was far too crowded up front. He's cooled off after a scorching start to the season, but is still shooting 37% from three-point range on 4.7 attempts per game with a career-high PER of 14.9. So, first of all, oh my God. As a Raptor fan, I am, first of all, relieved and excited for this trade. Because this team clearly needed something. They've been struggling. They clearly needed some help. And they needed to make a trade. It was evident that, for me especially, that I really just felt that this team needed a trade. They've slipped defensively. They've been in a slump. And, and this just caused their hole at power forward just to become bigger and bigger as the years went by. And finally, Masai Ujiri, legit, came through for Toronto. He came through. So basically, the Raptors were on the phone organizing a trade that will send Serge Ibaka, to the Toronto Raptors in exchange for Terrence Ross and the lesser of the Raptors for 2 first-round picks. Now, I think this is a fantastic trade for the Raptors as they get their power forward that they want while also not giving up a lot of assets. I mean, Ibaka is an amazing player. You heard the stats, 15 points a game, 8 rebounds, 1.6 blocks a game, shooting 39% from three-point range. That's everything the Raptors needed. He's a great two-way player. He fits well in the Raptors system, and and they've lacked a big man who can do that, who can stretch the floor, score in the post, and defend. I mean, they have one guy who can do that, and that's Patrick Patterson. When Patterson's injured now, you can see how badly this team struggled without him. So adding a guy like Serge Ibaka will be able to sort of relieve the stress that's put on from Patterson's injury. And when Patterson comes back, now you have two guys who can do all those things, and those are great things for this team. You know, this also helps the Raptors in so many other ways, like lineups. Like now they can, you know, sort of make custom lineups. Like as I mentioned with Patterson, they can have lineups with Patterson and Ibaka. They got Ibaka and Valanciunas, Ibaka and Nogueira. Like there's so many different options now that can work well for the Toronto Raptors. They also have balance, as now they finally have a solid balance of the roster. Because see, with Terrence Ross on the roster, the Raptors had a lot of guards. They had 4 point guards, two of them at which who barely see floor time in DeLon Wright and Fred VanVleet. And then they had Terrence Ross, a shooting guard, behind DeMar DeRozan, and then Norman Powell, who is, you know, really deserving of some minutes. So now with Ross gone, it gives room for guys like Powell and Wright and VanVleet to get some of the minutes that they truly need and they've truly earned for being quality pieces for the Raptors. And I think they finally get it, and the Raptors finally can be able to balance the roster out a little bit, you know. And I think this was a great move for Toronto. I think this was amazing. You know, Ibaka is probably behind Millsap would be my second choice of a guy I'd go after. He fills all the needs that Toronto really needs right now, and you know he does a great job at them. And another thing on Ibaka, he's also an experienced player. He's a player who's, you know, been with OKC. You know, he's been to the finals. He's very experienced in the playoffs. But he's also played well in a system like Toronto's. Like, he'll play well because he's played in a similar system in Oklahoma City, which is a similar system. You know, and that made Ibaka who he is. So I think this was a great trade for the Raptors. I think this was amazing because how Masai Ujiri was able to get this without, you know, holding off. And if you remember last year at the trade deadline, the Raptors tried going after Serge Ibaka. Masai Ujiri was a big fan of Serge Ibaka's game, and he wanted to go after him. But the Oklahoma City Thunder weren't willing to part ways. They wanted to, get a lot of assets. I mean, they wanted like Corey Joseph, Norman Powell, the 9th overall pick, and something out, and I believe another player involved. But like that's a crazy amount to ask for from the Raptors. And I'm glad Masai Ujiri was patient. He waited, and now look at this. He literally got Serge Ibaka, a valuable asset onto his team, without having to give him anybody. I mean, you know, I'm not bashing on Terrence Ross, but Terrence Ross is not, you know, a star caliber player. He's not a player who is worth a lot. I mean, he literally swapped him for Terrence Ross and a first. The lower first round pick too, not even like the better first round pick. You gave up your lower pick. So I mean, on one hand, this was a great move by Masai Ujiri, but on the other hand, it kind of just shows where Orlando's management is sort of heading. I mean, they're not really making smart, really logical moves, but as a Raptor fan, I can really say I'm happy for this move. I really enjoyed it. You know, so this trade is great for the Raptors, but I also think there's some positives to take for the Magic as well. I mean, they are getting Terrence Ross in the deal, who's a quality player. I mean, he's been great off the bench for Toronto. And I think Terrence Ross can finally use an opportunity to break out and become his own star. In Toronto, he was always behind Lowry, DeRozan, and Valanciunas. He was never able to be the number one or number two option on the court. And I think Ross finally just, you know, needs the opportunity to break out and sort of be a starter. And I think Orlando's the best place for him. And also, it gives the Magic more depth, man, because the Magic had a logjam for a big man, and now they finally, with Ibaka gone, they can finally have some more minutes to go around, and then Terrence can fill up their void at guard, so they'll help their guard depth as well. So, you know, it's great for the Magic. I think the Magic are getting back a solid return in Terrence Ross, and if Terrence Ross continues to develop and stays focused, I think he can become a quality player. I wish him all the best. I loved him in Toronto. I'm probably one of the only guys who supported him because he got a lot of hate from the fans, man. As a Raptor fan, as a guy who's watched a lot of games, Terrence Ross has gotten a lot of hate from the fans. And I think that's undeservedly. I think this guy has worked hard on his game, and I wish him all the best, man. And along with that, the Magic also get another first-round pick. So pair that with the first-round pick they have in this year's draft, which probably will be a high pick, you also get a late first rounder too. So that's another great thing as well for the Magic. But overall, man, I just love this trade. I love this season, NBA, the trade season, because so many big things happen like that. It's crazy, man. It's legit so crazy how a blockbuster move can happen within a day. And it's kind of funny how, like, I'm in like, my class and stuff. I'm legit on ESPN's trade machine during the class. I probably should not have been doing that, but you know what? We'll ignore that. I mean, like, come on. Everybody uses the trade machine. But yeah, I went onto the trade machine. I, did this exact trade for Terrence Ross for Serge Ibaka, and lo and behold, by the end of that period, it was made official, man. But I really love this, and I hope this is the solution, man, for the Raptors struggle. That they really need some help, and I think Ibaka can really help them and just be the answer. But overall, man, I just love it, and I hope to see the best for the Raptors and the Magic in the near future. So we're going to move on to our next trade, which is the Nuggets trading Jusuf Nurkic to the Trailblazers for Plumlee. The Bosnian Bear is reportedly on his way to Rip City. The Denver Nuggets are trading center Jusuf Nurkic and a 2017 first-round pick via the Memphis Grizzlies to the Portland Trailblazers in exchange for big man Mason Plumlee and a 2018 second-rounder. League sources told the Vertical Adrian Wojnarowski. Nurkic suited up for 45 games this season, with the Nuggets averaging 8 points and 5.8 rebounds on 51% shooting in 18 minutes. His role diminished significantly over the past month under the head coach Mike Malone, when it became painfully obvious that the front court of two natural five, the Nurkic and Nikola Jokic, who continuously outplayed him, wasn't going to cut it. A major issue upon the change, though, was that Nurkic wasn't content of being a part of the second unit, and even vented about it to the media. His frustrations paired with his inability to play alongside Jokic are what pushed Denver into making a move, the sources told ESPN's Jeff Goodman. Plumlee was putting up the strongest numbers of his 4-year career through 54 appearances, averaging 11 points on 53% shooting, 8 boards, 4 dimes, and 1.2 rejections. He's eligible to receive a contract extension as well, which could have wound up being a max. With a number of players on its roster already locked up long-term contracts, Portland probably wouldn't have the wiggle room to keep the 26-year-old Duke product without taking a hit into the luxury tax. Nurkic is far more affordable, with 1 more year remaining on his rookie-scale contract of $2.9 million. In what's widely considered to be a deep 2017 draft class, the Trailblazers will now have their own pick at their disposal, which could be in the lottery if they fail to make the playoffs. The first rounder of Memphis, as well as one of the Cleveland Cavaliers picks, acquired the deal that was in the whole Andrews and Bergeron deal. The only one game separates the two teams in the standings, with Denver holding down the 8th seed in the Western Conference at 24-30. So as mentioned in my previous episode of the podcast, the Nuggets really needed to make a trade. I mean, they really needed to make a trade, as they had way too many they have just so much talent on that roster. And, they really don't know what to do with it. And with the shocking play of Nikola Jokic, it was clear that there was just no more room for Jusuf Nurkic, man. And they had to trade him. So the Nuggets traded away Jusuf Nurkic to Portland and a 2017 first-round pick in exchange for Mason Plumlee and a 2018 second-round pick. Now, I do have some problems with this trade. I really do. First of all, for Denver, I don't understand why. Let's start with Denver. Let's start with Portland. I don't understand why Portland would make this move. As I've mentioned also in previous podcasts, saying that Portland's main need right now is for a defensive center, and if that's your need, why would you go for a guy like Jusuf Nurkic, who's really not known for his defense? He's not a defensive guy. Nurkic is more of an offensive guy. He's a traditional big man. So why would you make this move? I don't understand. This kind of, doesn't make any sense. Kind of contradicts your whole plan to going into this trade deadline. And again, you traded a guy in Mason Plumlee, who again is still doing solid defensively. So it really doesn't make any sense. You just made your defense worse by trading away. You're probably one of your more solid defenders. So I don't really understand what Portland was doing here, because it doesn't solve any of their needs. And second of all, man, I don't understand why the Nuggets made this move, because their entire point of making a trade at the deadline was to get rid of some of the logjam of big man. But if you trade away Nurkic out of the logjam, okay, the logjam is fine. But then you bring back Plumlee, and now it just created the logjam again. Like, you didn't solve any issues. You traded for big man for a big man. Like, your goal was to try to get maybe a guard out of him, maybe a small forward out of Nurkic, you know. But I don't understand why you'd make a trade like that, because it really doesn't help you. It doesn't solve any of your need. It's like you wasted your time making this deal, and I really don't understand why they would do this. Because you're not really solving any issues on the issues on your roster. But overall, man, I think this trade was a little rushed. I think this trade really doesn't help either team, man. I think, it just made their situations worse, man. It made Portland worse as they got worse defensively, and it made the Nuggets worse as they still have a logjam at the center position. So we'll see what happens with that. But overall, man, I just really wasn't a big fan of this trade. So the New York Knicks rescind Oakley's arena ban. The New York Knicks have lifted the arena ban imposed on popular former star Charles Oakley, according to ESPN's Stephen A. Smith and the undefeated Mike Wise. The news comes 2 days after Commissioner Adam Silver intervened with the assistance of Michael Jordan, summoning Oakley and the Knicks owner James Dolan to the NBA offices to encourage them to settle their dispute. Although the ban has been lifted, Oakley said he's not willing to accept an invite to Madison Square Garden from Dolan, as per ESPN's Dan Le Batard. Oakley was forcibly removed from Madison Square Garden last Wednesday and arrested and charged on court of assault and trespassing. He resisted efforts from security to remove him from his seat, which were located near Dolan, after being instructed to leave for verbally abusive behavior towards security. It was announced that night that Oakley was banned indefinitely. Following Monday's meeting with Silver, the NBA announced that both Oakley and Dolan expressed regret for their actions, and that Dolan hoped Oakley would return to Madison Square Garden soon. So this issue is complicated, just like everything with the Knicks right now. So basically, the whole situation where it all started is Charles Oakley. We all know him, former Knick, played with the New York Knicks for 10 seasons, is a beloved fan favorite in New York. You know, he came for a home game at Madison Square Garden. You know, it was the Knicks versus the Clippers game. And apparently, he was approached by 6 security guards asking him to leave the arena. Now, Oakley being the type of person he is, and, he's that kind of guy, he felt threatened, and he ended up pushing one of the guards, and then as sort of a retaliation, and they took Oakley out of the arena, and they actually arrested him, for pushing resisting leaving the arena. And the fans went crazy with their support, man. They went crazy with their support and their hate for the Knicks they hated the Knicks for doing that. They basically just took their former star, a former legend who gave his heart, sweat, and tears for the Knicks, and just threw him out of the arena for no particular reason. Now, according to James Dolan, he says that Oakley wasn't misbehaving and he wasn't doing the right things. There was things wrong with him. So, it's a two-story kind of thing right now. So now later after that, the Knicks owner James Dolan officially banned Oakley from Madison Square Garden and said, and as the reports that, again, that Oakley was doing violent and misbehaved during this visit. And Oakley denied the claim. That he said that I didn't do anything wrong. I was only there for like 4 minutes, and then 6 guys approached me, and then this led, because of the public dispute, how fans were outraging because of this and how poorly the Knicks handled the situation. It led to the commissioner Adam Silver to have a meeting with both James Dolan and Charles Oakley to help come up to an agreement, and then the ban was lifted. But in my own opinion, I think this is such a confusing situation, man. As on one hand, you can see that this is a bad way to treat Charles Oakley by the New York Knicks. I think this was a terrible way to treat a former star for your franchise, a guy who's worked hard to make your franchise great, and you treat him like this. You throw him out of an arena, like that's a bad look, man. I think this is you can't just treat him like that, man. I just think that it's a low thing to do. There's no class to it. It's an overall just a bad look. But on the other hand, you can kind of see that Charles Oakley did cross the line. He shouldn't have pushed a security guard. He shouldn't have done some of the things that he did, and he does regret it. Like if you see some of his interviews, he does say, "Yeah, I never meant to do it, but it happened in the moment." And on the one hand, you can see that Oakley was at fault because he did put his hands on the security guard and he did assault him, and he did cause a little bit of trouble. So really, I don't know what to think of this, man. I really don't. It's like there's two sides of the story here. It's like, okay, on one hand, I say, well, that sucks, man. Why would you do that to Charles Oakley? But on the other hand, I'd be like, he kind of had that coming because he pushed him. But personally, I just think this is an issue that really shouldn't have happened, as it created so much extra drama on the Knicks. The Knicks have already so much negative publicity because of the Phil Jackson, Carmelo Anthony drama, and now you add the James Dolan and Charles Oakley drama. It's like, what's going on, man, in New York? But I think the situation just could have been handled a little bit better. I think if James Dolan thought that Charles Oakley was behaving, instead of sending 6 security guards, he could have maybe sent one guy to say, you okay? Can you please just behave a little bit? Mr. Dolan would appreciate it. I think that would have been a little bit nicer. I think that would have been a little bit more subtle, and I don't think it would have created the uproar that it created with this whole situation. I think that would have been easier. There's other ways you could have handled this that would have just prevented any of this from happening, man. But overall, man, I just think this is a really confusing situation. I think it was a situation that shouldn't have happened to begin with, but I just hope the Knicks really fix this soon. I really hope they fix their franchise because it's in shambles right now, man. There's so many things wrong with this franchise right now that you really just question the leadership and question management and say, what are they doing? Because they clearly have no idea. Because, they clearly don't. But overall, man, I really don't like this. I really hated this. And this was probably one of the biggest stories of the week. But, I just hope that the issues can be resolved soon, and so that we can go back to seeing a proper Knicks franchise that's operating under solid terms. So next, we're going to talk about the NBA Development League to be renamed to the NBA Gatorade League. The NBA Development League will be renamed to the NBA Gatorade League for the 2017-18 season. NBA Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum says the agreement also allows the Gatorade League to take advantage of Gatorade Sports Science Institute. Tatum says the league will use the Institute's sports science expertise and knowledge to enhance player performance in our game through nutrition, training, and other advances. Gatorade's Senior Vice President, General Manager Brett O'Brien listed several examples, testing for a player's sweat type and amount, if they are a fat burner or a carbohydrate burner, recovery advances, and joint health. The league also remains a testing ground for changes that could be implemented into the parent league. So basically, the NBA Development League has a new partnership. They have a new sort of partnership, or they got bought out. I really don't know which one it is. It really didn't specify in the article, but they are now officially rebranding to the NBA Gatorade League. And I think this is a great thing, man. I think this is personally a great thing that this partnership is happening, because now it allows players and athletes to use the Gatorade's sports science facility, man. And the sports science facility is a facility that can allow players to sort of scientifically generate training regimens, generate proper diets, things like that, to help enhance their training, to help enhance their performances. Because you're testing things like sweat, you're testing things like endurance, you're testing things like fat burning, things like that, things that you really just can't figure out in a typical as a typical ordinary person. And I think this is a great thing. It would allow the NBA development players to get better training, get better prepared, and hopefully become better athletes before they make the jump to the NBA. And I think this is a great concept. I love the aspect of the game because it allows players to fully develop properly, and I think it gives them the ability to get themselves better in the the best possible way for themselves. I love the idea. But however, there is one thing I hate. Now, I love Mark Tatum. I think he's a great guy. I think some of his ideas have been really good. But come on, man. I really just hate the name. Like NBA G League, NBA Gatorade League. Like, come on. Like, why would you change it up? Like first of all, it sounds so made up. It sounds pretty fake, and it kind of ruins the look of the D League. Like, it doesn't really represent a developmental league. Like, it kind of doesn't sound like it. Like NBA D League, yeah, you already know instantly from the name, say, oh, NBA Developmental League. Now NBA Gatorade League, it's like, what is this? Is this some kind of like tournament or something? Like, I really hated the name. Like, that's probably like my biggest negative out of this. I just hate the name. It's terrible. Like, how can you rebrand the D League? Like, I'd rather just keep it the D League and just say it's, I don't know, partnered with Gatorade. I think that would have been a little bit better, because it's like, the name is everything. The name brings the cachet. The name brings the sort of the emphasis on the league. It sort of brings the recognition to the league. And if it's called something that really doesn't sound great, it really just ruins the overall look and the overall brand of the league. But that's a minor complaint to make. But overall, man, I really love the idea of this partnership. I really love how it can benefit athletes. It can benefit the NBA, as you'll get more prepared players, more players who are ready to compete, and it will give the NBA some ideas to use with their current players as well. I just think it's overall just a great partnership, and I just really hope to see great things from this partnership in the near future. So next, we're going to be talking about the latest rumors surrounding Brook Lopez and his trade possibilities. So the Brooklyn Nets have been accepting trade calls from any teams interested in starting center Brook Lopez for the last few months. The Nets have been asking for at least 2 first-round picks as a part of any trade package for Lopez, and that demand remains in place. There were some earlier reports linking Lopez with the Boston Celtics and New Orleans Pelicans. Regarding the Pelicans, Michael Scotto of Basketball Insiders reported Monday that they have talked about a deal which would send Tyreke Evans, Tim Frazier, and Langston Galloway in a protected 2018 first-round selection to the Nets. Evans has become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st, while Galloway owns the 2017-18 player option worth $5.4 million. Frazier's deal runs out the end of the season. As long as the Pelicans or any NBA team is unwilling to part with 2 future first-round picks, the Nets will likely decline offers of Lopez, who was signed through the 2017-18 season. Lopez is currently averaging 20 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and 1.7 blocks this season in 50 appearances. The Pelicans are also looking to upgrade their starting center position and have also reportedly spoken to the Philadelphia 76ers regarding Jahlil Okafor. So clearly, as I mentioned in other podcasts, the Brooklyn Nets really need to make a move. I think they need to make a trade, and I personally think that the best possible trade where you're going to get the biggest return out of is Brook Lopez. I think he's really holding this franchise back from rebuilding. Just like Carmelo Anthony, where he's sort of like the old news. Like, he's not really. If he doesn't go, then you can't rebuild the team, properly without him. This team, what they need is young players and draft picks. This is what this team needs. And they can get that by trading Lopez. Like, they don't necessarily need Lopez. Lopez hasn't been doing anything in Brooklyn. And I think, he needs to get out. I think it's time. He's spent his course in Brooklyn. I think it's time for them to part ways. I think it will be a great opportunity. So now it leads to the question of where should he go? Where should Brook Lopez end up? And personally, as what I stated in the last episode, I think the best fit for Brook Lopez is the New Orleans Pelicans. Because pairing him with Anthony Davis would be not only an amazing for New Orleans, but it will be, but Brooklyn will be able to get exactly what they want, and they need young players, and they need some draft picks. New Orleans doesn't need their draft picks. They don't need to draft more players. What they need to do is now build from trading and free agency to build around Anthony Davis. And I think getting a guy like Brook Lopez to pair with Anthony Davis at the center spot is going to be amazing because both the guys can shoot, both the guys can defend, both the guys are kind of athletic. So it really just makes sense. It's like you're having two twin towers towering above him. It's like a matchup nightmare for any opposing coach. And then plus you can still build around them by having some three-point shooting guards, spreading the floor, ball movement and whatnot. Like you can do a lot of things with this team. So that's what I'm saying. You don't really need to keep your draft picks. If Brooklyn wants draft picks, give it to them. Say, here, take the draft picks. Just give us Brook Lopez. And I think Brooklyn, they'll be desperate. I think they'll be really desperate. So you can probably get away for just giving up Tyreek Evans and a couple of first-round picks for Brook Lopez. I think you can probably snag that. And if you can do that, that'll be great because you're getting a quality piece in Brook Lopez for, a low cost, and I think that's a great plan. I think they need something right now. I think the Nets really just need to get rid of Lopez. I think it's a best thing for both organizations because it will help everybody. Everybody gets what they want, and that's really what I think trades should really be about. I think as a GM, that's what I'm looking for. If I'm getting a benefit, and if the other team is getting a benefit. So overall, man, I think this is the move for Brooklyn to make. I think if they want to be a contender and they want to solve all their issues, man, I think, Brooklyn needs to make the trade as it not only benefits the Nets, it benefits Brook Lopez himself. As he finally gets out of Brooklyn, he'll be finally in a winning environment, and, he can probably just, jumpstart his career again. I think this will be a great opportunity for him to do so. So I'm really excited to see how this will play out in the near future. So we got a couple more stories to end it off. The Portland Trailblazers intend on trading Festus Ezeli. The Portland Trailblazers are determined to ship out center Festus Ezeli and his deadweight salary, sources told ESPN's Mark Stein. The Blazers signed Ezeli to a 2-year, $50 million deal this past summer, but he's yet to suit up for a single game due to a lingering left knee injury. Portland, meanwhile, is well over the cap and just a hair under the luxury tax threshold, running the league's third highest salary behind the Cleveland Cavaliers and Los Angeles Clippers, with just a 23-31 record to show for it. Ezeli is making $7.4 million this season, and the Blazers have specifically sought out teams below the salary floor like the Denver Nuggets and Brooklyn Nets and Philadelphia 76ers to take on his contract, likely with some form of draft pick compensation attached. The second year of Ezeli's deal is guaranteed for just $1 million with a June 30th trigger date for the remaining $6.7 million. The 27-year-old has struggled with injuries his entire career and has been sidelined with more games than he's played since being drafted by the Golden State Warriors in 2012. He received a bone marrow aspirate injection in his knee in August, suffered a setback in his rehab, and in November was said to be pondering season-ending surgery in December. In 46 games with the Warriors last season, Ezeli averaged 5.6 points, 5.67 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 1 point blocks in 16.7 minutes. So basically, Ezeli, he's sort of turning into the modern day Greg Oden. I think this guy really just cannot stay healthy. He comes back into the court and he gets injured again. And the Blazers, they didn't know that's someone they signed him. They thought they were going to get the guy who'd come off the bench and sort of be that defensive presence that they wanted all along. The guy who really helped Golden State win their title. And, Festus Ezeli was supposed to be their defensive center. But now that he's out, the team has struggled defensively. They haven't been able to get any sort of defense at the rim because they don't have a rim protector. Ezeli was supposed to be the rim protector, and now he's out. And I think that if he's not going to be playing for you, if he's wasting your time and your money, which the Trailblazers don't have a lot of right now, I think you should trade him. I think, like everybody that I've said in my previous episodes, that if he's not helping your franchise, why is he on your bench? Why is he on your payroll? Why don't you just get rid of him, get a guy who can help you for a cheaper cost and benefit you? Like, why are you suffering with this guy on your bench when he's not helping you? Why not just get rid of him and get a player who will? And remember, I mentioned Andrew Bogut, who's also on the trade market. I mentioned guys like Larry Sanders, who was reportedly looking for an NBA comeback. So Portland has options. Now it's all up to them and what they will do. What's the move? Are they gonna jump at a veteran like, I don't know, at Bogut? Or are they gonna try and sign Larry Sanders to a cheaper deal? I don't know what they're gonna do, but they have options, and I think trading Ezeli or getting rid of Ezeli somehow is gonna be the first step, because if this guy is missing a lot more, getting injuries like this, I think it's best that you part ways before he gets anything else serious and sort of handicaps you for more years to come, man. But I just think that if Ezeli, he needs to figure some shit out and stop getting injured. So now we're going to move on to the final story of this podcast. Kevin Love out 6 weeks after arthroscopic surgery in his knee. The Cleveland Cavaliers will be without Kevin Love for most of what's left of the regular season. The All-Star power forward underwent arthroscopic surgery to remove a loose body from his ailing left knee and will be sidelined for approximately 6 weeks. Love has been suffering from a sore left knee Saturday against the Denver Nuggets and underwent an MRI the following day. Though it didn't reveal any structural damage following the initial results, he sought out a second opinion that led to the decision to undergo surgery. He's a little down. Cavaliers head coach Tyronn Lue said of Love, but that's part of it. Injuries are part of the game, and that happens. And the best thing for us is that we caught it early enough so that he can get a surgery and then be ready to come back for the playoffs. So I'm glad we caught it early enough. With Love out, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson, and Tristan Thompson will likely see an uptick in minutes, as well as Derek Williams, who is working on a 10-day contract. Love, who will miss the All-Star game as a result of the surgery, is averaging 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 1.9 assists in 46 games this season. So now, obviously, this is a clear blow to the Cleveland Cavaliers, as they are in need of some depth, and they've lost a lot of people, man. They've lost Kevin Love, they lost J.R. Smith, and Iman Shumpert, all the injuries, and now, not to mention, they still don't have a playmaker, and they just traded away the Birdman. So it's like their bench is very thin, and this is a problem, particularly on guys like LeBron James, who really just wants rest for the playoffs, but can't do that if his team is consistently losing. So it puts the Cavaliers in a very predicament situation where they now have nobody, man. They really have nobody, and I think the Cavs, if they want to, save themselves, they should really hope that guys like Bogut and Calderon, become available, so you can sign those two for cheap deals and get your depth back. Because with Kevin Love out 6 weeks, he won't be back until maybe mid-March at best, and probably will be late March, and which means that he'll get like maybe 3 to 4 games before the playoffs, and that's it, playoff time. So that's a lot of time he's gonna miss, and anything can happen, from now and then. So we don't know how Kevin Love's injury is going to happen, man. But overall, man, it's just a big blow for the Cavaliers. And, it sucks, man. Injuries suck, but, you have to live with it. And Kevin Love was having a beast season. He made it to the All-Star team again. So, you just got to feel bad for Kevin. But, it is what it is. And I just wish Kevin Love the best recovery. And I just hope he comes back, helps Cleveland out, and, leads them to a second straight title. But we'll see what happens about that. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Leave it a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this channel for more content like this. We upload a podcast every single week. We also do some other videos as well on this channel about basketball. So definitely subscribe if you want to see more videos like that. Follow me on social media. You got my Twitter and Facebook up here. So you guys know what to do. And as always, I'm Hani from NBA Talk. And I'll see you all in the next episode of the NBA Talk podcast. Thank you so much for watching.